They didn't see a person. They saw a blur. Background noise. Alex stood in the doorway of opportunity, unnoticed. Not hated. Worse, invisible. A hand waved past their face. Next, 2 letters stamped across a quiet heart. No. But here's the cliffhanger question that refuses to die. What if being ignored isn't the end of your story, but the beginning of your craft? Fluorescent lights hummed like tired bees. A cracked clock blinked 3:17. 9 other applicants scrolled on their phones. Alex clutched a thin portfolio, sweaty fingers, shallow breath. They had stayed up all night polishing the work, hoping for a miracle. A man in a jacket skimmed the first page. Second, third. He didn't look up. He just slid the folder back across the table as if it were a bill he didn't want to pay. Thanks. A soft dismissal. Alex felt the floor quietly give way. No drama, no scene. Just a small life being erased with courtesy. Outside, the city moved like nothing happened. Cars sighed. A bus coughed. A child laughed at a pigeon. And Alex, small, stunned, whispered to the wind, "Why am I so easy to overlook?" Picture a work site. No helmets, no cranes, just history. In the ancient story, the builders sort stones for the temple. They keep the smooth, perfect ones. They toss the odd, ugly piece aside. Useless. But when the arch begins, there's a problem. The perfect stones can't hold the curve. Only the rejected one fits the crown. The stone the builders rejected became the cornerstone. Alex didn't know that story in detail, but something inside mirrored it. They were not symmetrical, not polished, not obvious. Maybe, just maybe, what made them odd could make them essential. Night, a second-hand desk. Lamp like a small sun. No likes, no follows, no audience. Alex opened a notebook and wrote 3 lines at the top. Skill, systems, service. Then a quiet promise. Be so good they can't ignore you. They started with skill. Not flashy. Foundational. If it was writing, they copied pages by hand to learn rhythm. If it was design, they rebuilt posters pixel by pixel to study composition. If it was code, they rewrote tiny functions until errors bowed. Nothing about it looked impressive, but a metronome ticked on the desk. Steady, stubborn. Practice, practice, practice. At dawn, eyes burning, they whispered to the empty room, "I will outlast the echo of no." Days bled into weeks, and boredom arrived, sharp as winter. Boredom is where most stories end. Alex made it the place theirs would begin. They created systems. A daily block of deep work. Phone in a drawer, timer set, door closed. A feedback loop. Finish something small, ship it to someone honest, collect the punch. A reps board, 1 square per finished rep. 100 boxes. No skipped squares. When the mind wandered, they pulled it back. When the doubt hissed, they wrote anyway. When the work looked ugly, they finished it and faced the mirror. A secret. The ugly stage is the doorway to mastery. Most people turn around. Alex walked through. Another application. Another polite dismissal. Another evening alone with the lamp. But this time, the no landed differently. It didn't shatter. It ricocheted off something harder, their growing competence. Alex looked at the portfolio. Old pieces felt like strangers. The new ones had teeth, edges, clarity. Still not perfect, but not invisible. Not anymore. They sent an email to a mentor they barely knew. "Would you tear this apart?" The response arrived. 3 paragraphs of surgical honesty. No sugar, no softness, just the exact arrows needed to wound and heal. Alex swallowed pride, then rewired everything. They changed the way they composed, cut, ordered, named, presented, explained. The work got lean, sharp, undeniable. A small opportunity cracked open. Not a job, a test. Submit 1 piece by Friday. No promises, no payment, just a thin sliver of chance. Thursday night, disaster. A file corrupted. The screen froze. The room tilted. Panic is loud. Mastery is quiet. Alex closed their eyes, stood up, drank water, and rebuilt from an earlier draft. They used everything they had practiced in the room with no applause. The boring magic, the systems, the reps. At 4:12 a.m., the file exported clean. They hit send with shaking hands. Then they slept for 30 minutes and went to their day job. No one clapped, but the sun came up like a standing ovation they could finally hear. Monday. Rain sulked against the window. The inbox blinked. Subject: about your submission. Alex hovered the cursor over the message, heartbeat climbing the stairs 2 at a time. They opened it. We'd like to feature your work. 7 words. 7 volts. The smallest yes can electrify an entire life. They didn't scream, didn't post, didn't brag. They went back to the desk and did another rep. Because the goal wasn't a single yes. The goal was a person who deserved yes after yes because the work made refusal impossible. Later that month, Alex visited the hallway where names of contributors were displayed. Rows of letters, polished plaques, a corridor of proof. They ran a finger over the cold metal. Not in worship, in study. Each name hid 10,000 boring mornings. Each plaque stood on the bones of failed drafts. Each success echoed a silent vow. Alex whispered, I will earn my square inch of this wall by building what cannot be ignored. They turned and left, unnoticed again. It didn't matter. Being unseen was no longer an insult. It was a training plan. An event. Bright stage. Buzzing crowd. Alex was invited to present a small piece of their process. 5 minutes only. Not prime time. Not center stage. A side slot between coffee and a panel discussion. But they treated it like a headline. They rehearsed the 5 minutes until breath and words were twins. They cut extra syllables, sharpened transitions, built a moment that would make a stranger lean in. When the time came, they stepped into the light and delivered. Short, clean, precise. Not a single wasted beat. Not a single begged for clap. Just a quiet, undeniable competence that made the room lean forward without knowing why. Halfway through, a well-known figure in the back stopped typing. Looked up, listened. Afterward, that person walked over. Who are you? Alex didn't give a speech. They offered a sample of the work. Here's what I've been building. Silence. Then the sentence that changes the geometry of a life. Let's talk. Work expanded. Not a lottery win. A steady widening river. Alex kept the same room, the same lamp, the same systems. Deep work block. Feedback loop. Reps board. They added service. Because being undeniable isn't selfish, it's generous. They mentored 2 beginners. They wrote 1 free tutorial a week explaining a technique they once struggled with. They answered messages from strangers with patience. The strange thing about mastery is this: the more you give away, the more the world insists you take your place. One evening, Alex returned to the first building, the one with the buzzing lights and polite rejections. They sat in the same waiting area. Different person, different spine. An assistant recognized their name. This way, our director wants to meet you. Inside, the director smiled. We've been following your work. Hard not to. Everyone references your tutorials. Alex felt the universe grin. Be so good they can't ignore you. The sentence wasn't a wish anymore. It was a report. They didn't gloat. They asked about the company's problems. Listened. Offered solutions. Competence has a sound. It's the click of the right key in the right lock. The door opened. Spotlight. Main stage. A larger crowd than Alex had ever seen. They stood at center, heartbeat steady. Phone free. No notes. Just craft carried in the bones. They began. Not with "look at me," with "look at this." They showed the process. They revealed the invisible stitches behind the beautiful garment. They let the work do the shouting while their voice stayed humble, clear, alive. Halfway through, you could feel the room decide. Not a vote, a surrender. People leaned forward, eyes locked in. Pens stopped moving. That's the moment. The one you think is magic. It isn't. It's the interest earned from years of boring deposits. Friend, right now, Choose one word you'll carry through your quiet seasons. The word that will hold you when the room is empty and the lamp is your only sun. Drop that one word in the comments. Let someone else borrow your word when their hands shake. Then hit hype. Not for me, for the next struggler scrolling who needs this story today. Later, in the hallway, Alex washed their hands in cold water and looked in the mirror. Not for hair, for honesty. They whispered, "I'm still a stone, but I know where I fit." A student approached, eyes bright with that ache you recognize when you've lived it. "How did you get here?" Alex smiled. "The loud part is 5 minutes on stage. The real part is what you do when nobody's clapping. Build that every day." They wrote a small checklist on the student's notebook. One deep work block, no phone. Finish one small thing, ship it. Ask for real feedback, face it. Repeat tomorrow relentlessly. The student nodded, breathing steadier. Hope is a transferable skill. Months later, the same people who once slid Alex's folder back across the table invited them to consult. Not as a favor, as a necessity. Their team had questions no one could answer quickly. Alex had a map, not guesses, methods. In the meeting, Alex didn't posture. They asked 3 precise questions that cut to the bone. Then they laid out a plan that sounded like music to a tired room. Specific, doable, accountable. At the end, the director said the quiet part out loud. "We ignored you once. We can't now." Alex nodded, not smug, grateful. And then they went home to the lamp because the work, the real work, never becomes less sacred. There's a crown you wear that nobody sees. It's made of routines and reps and kindness you didn't know anyone. It's forged from every no that you transformed into a longer yes. Alex wears that crown in private where it was forged. They keep meeting students for coffee. They keep answering messages with old answers and new patience. They keep building the thing that cannot be ignored. When applause fades, the crown remains. When attention wanders, the craft holds. When the world looks away, the work still stares back and says, "Let's go again." So if you feel invisible today, if you are the stone they didn't choose, if your room has a lamp and a clock and a stubborn heart, listen, don't chase the spotlight, build the light. Be so good they can't ignore you. If the story moved you even a little, tap like, subscribe to Rise Remember Stories for a new cinematic story every day, and share this with someone who's working quietly in the dark, because the world needs fewer loud entrances and more undeniable work. One line to write on your wall: attention is borrowed, excellence is owned.